Hey everyone, welcome to Logan's Mosh Pit. Glad to have you here. Do me a favor and please subscribe if you haven't already. Also consider joining my Patreon page for some cool perks. I'll leave a link in the description. Ow! Hot off the press, I'm holding the latest May 2023 issue of Guitar World magazine. Full of fascinating tidbits, but one article in particular piqued my interest. The title was The Pedals They Can't Live Without, and it was written by Amit Sharma, Jason Sidwell, David Mead, and Jamie Dixon. In this article, a great group of guitar players will reveal what their go-to effects pedals are and why. After I read each response, I will show you a picture of the pedal they pointed out, plus the pedal price on Reverb if you're thinking about buying one. Let's get started. First up, Billy Corgan from Smashing Pumpkins. He went with the Electro Harmonix OP amp Big Muff PI. It cost about $100. It was an incredible honor when EHX founder/president Mike Matthews asked me to get involved with the reissues of this pedal because it changed my life. That sound is the sound, the ultimate high-gain vroom. The Soviet version was never quite the same. If you want the Siamese Dream creamy tone, that is it. Here's a picture of the Electro Harmonix OP amp Big Muff PI. Next, Judas Priest's very own Richie Faulkner. He picked the MXR M148 Micro Chorus. You can get one for roughly $120. I use this on everything, and actually just leave it on for about 99.9% of the set. I tend to have it around the 12 o'clock position, and I find it gives a beautiful movement to everything that makes chords and single notes pop. It adds almost a type of EQ that you can't get from a conventional EQ pedal. It's perfect for when you need that extra push over the cliff. This is what the MXR M148 Micro Chorus looks like. Next, former Megadeth member Marty Friedman. He chose the Maxon AF9 Auto Filter. The pedal I've used most by far is this one. As a matter of fact, it's the only pedal I use consistently. My settings are all switches and faders down to 0. If I'm feeling saucy, I'll raise the sensitivity fader up to about 1. That's it. You can barely tell this effect is on, but it adds a slight human element to the notes and shapes the attack in such a way that, in combination with the way I express notes, really helps get my point across when playing melodies. It costs close to $300. Here's the Maxon AF9 Auto Filter in all its glory. Next, Billy Howardell of A Perfect Circle. He selected the Electro Harmonix Synth 9 because apparently Electro Harmonix Synth 1 through 8 were already taken. It should set you back $250. I love Electro Harmonix. I'm always blown away by what they're doing. The pitch tracking is always incredible. The Synth 9 is a favorite, though I also kick in the Mellotron Mel 9 a bit too. You have to use things like that sparingly. I don't run through a lot of pedals to be honest, but these are my go-tos. This is what the Electro Harmonix Synth 9 looks like. Next, guitars for both Dokken and later Lynch mob, George Lynch. George gravitates toward the Ibanez TS-808 Tube Screamer. It could be yours for roughly $180. It's not an exciting answer, unfortunately. I almost want to lie and make up something cooler. Here's one I built as a kid out of radio parts, but mine is a very special 808 Tube Screamer, a second-year Malaysian chip. I don't like the Texas Instruments double chip ones, though some of the JRCs are pretty good. They all vary somewhat. I also have to mention that I've always been a delay/echo guy because I play to the echo. I really can't stand dry guitar. In some ways the delay is more important than the overdrive, but that Tube Screamer has been my most consistent pedal on my board. Feast your eyes on the Ibanez TS-808 Tube Screamer. Next, Ed O'Brien of Radiohead. He went with the Hologram Electronics Infinite Jets. It runs around $300. I love this thing. It's such an amazing synth pedal. It helps create sounds that are really different. The kind of tones where you're never quite sure how you got there, but you did. It's one of those go-to pedals when I need something unusual. It makes my guitar stutter or sound like an accordion with this backwards reverb. It's seriously good. Take a look at the hologram electronic infinite jets. Next, Soundgarden shredder Kim Thale. He opted for the Ibanez CS9 stereo chorus. It costs close to $150. In the early days of Soundgarden, I often used an Ibanez stereo chorus. I frequently wrote and played parts containing arpeggios with open strings, harmonics, and feedback. The chorus effect would augment those ideas, allowing them to cut through on recordings, while giving them a shimmering ambience. In later years, I became fond of using Dunlop Crybaby wahs. During solos, I could generate a bright tone that could scream through Chris Cornell's rhythm guitar if he was playing, and Ben Shepherd's bass distortion if he was using it. Over time, my left foot was almost as integral to my solos as my left hand. Kick out the jams, mother! Behold, the Ibanez CS9 stereo chorus. Next, Mick Thompson from Slipknot. He picked the Boss NS2 noise suppressor. It'll set you back about $120. The Boss NS2 is probably the pedal I always need and use the most. It's somehow like an extension of my thoughts and intent. It holds a note until I don't want it to, and only very rarely opens unintentionally. If only it didn't dull your tone so noticeably in a studio. You can't get away with it when playing at live SPLs, or sound pressure levels. Almost perfect. This is what the Boss NS2 noise suppressor looks like. Next, Alter Bridge member Mark Tremonti. He prefers a G-Lab SD1 smooth delay. You can buy it for around $300. My signature Morley wah is my favorite pedal of all time and probably the one I've used most. But one pedal I simply can't live without is my delay. I can't stand going in without it. It feels awkward and my leads have no vibes. I own a ton of delays, but I use the G-Lab. I don't know if they make them anymore, so whenever I find one, I'll buy it so I have enough for life. Feast your eyes on the G-Lab SD1 Smooth Delay. Finally, Steve Vai, a super successful solo artist who has recorded with a smorgasbord of other musicians, such as Frank Zappa, David Lee Roth, Whitesnake, Motorhead, Alice Cooper, Spinal Tap, etc. Steve swears by the Digitech Whammy DT. It's the most expensive, coming in at $400. My favorite pedal changes through time, but right now I'd have to say it's my Digitech Whammy, the DT version. I ended up using it a lot on my Inviolate album and the subsequent tour. It's a full and fat sounding pitch shifter and the latency is tolerable. At this moment in time I seem to be addicted to its instant pitch shift interval button. This pedal aids in creating audible illusions that are engaging and seemingly impossible. Behold the Digitech Whammy DT. Well, that's the end of the article. What pedals do you like to use? Let me know in the comments. Before I go, I want to give a special shout out to my supporters on Patreon, Matt and Stacy from Canada. That does it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. I really appreciate the support. I'll see you next time. Till then, rock on.